Hello and welcome to Mark Fraser's Lidl Kitchen, where each week I take one of the special offers from Lidl and show you how to make the most of the ingredients on offer. And I'm delighted that this week the pick of the week was this, the Savoy Cabbage, 49p, unbelievable value. This is one of my favourite vegetables at this time of the year. It's full of flavour, it's robust, you can cook it in all sorts of different ways, and it's extremely good for you as well. So I'm going to do a braised cabbage recipe. Too often the Savoy cabbage, we just boil it, we put it on the side of the plate and we kind of forget about it. This recipe is going to make it centre stage. It's a recipe you could eat just on its own, or it would be lovely to have with some maybe some nice sausages, maybe some bratwurst would be particularly good with this. So the ingredients, very simply, I've got a Savoy cabbage which I've just cut into 8 wedges. Now you need to just leave the enough of the core so it just stays together. Over on the pan I've got a sliced onion which is just softening in a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of butter. Here I've got some chicken stock. You could use vegetable stock, it doesn't matter. This is some I had in the freezer. If you haven't got any in the freezer or haven't got any fresh, then just use a stock cube, it'll be absolutely fine. In here I've got some gorgonzola. There's about 200 grams of gorgonzola in here. I like gorgonzola because the blue cheese goes so well with the cabbage, but you could use gruyere or gouda or fontina would be particularly good. You need a soft cheese that's going to just melt nicely. In this bowl I've got some breadcrumbs. There's about 2 thick slices of slightly stale bread that I've just processed. I've left the crusts on because I like the texture and it gives a nice flavour. And in here I've got 25 grams of parmesan, which I'm going to mix with the breadcrumbs and with some thyme, which is about the only herb that I've got going in the garden at the moment. So they're the ingredients, really, really simple. Over on the stove, at a decent heat, I've got the onion softening. Ideally, do it in a pan that you're going to be able to put straight into the oven. My oven's preheated to about 200 degrees centigrade. When the onions are softened, you just need to take the cabbage wedges and you just fit them into the pan. So there's no science to it, it's just however they fit. Oops. So just like that, and I'm going to leave that on the heat for a couple of minutes just so that the cabbage starts to take on a little bit of colour. Okay, so that's been at a reasonably high heat for a couple of minutes. You can see it's just beginning to take on a bit of colour. We're not looking to cook the cabbage completely here, we just want a little bit of the flavour that you get from the browning. So my pan's nice and hot. Back on the heat, I've got my 200 mils of I've got chicken stock, and you could use vegetable, and I'm just going to add that to the pan. And you just want to bring that to the boil and just give it a couple of minutes just to begin to take in the flavour. While you're doing that, or while that's happening over there, I've got some thyme which I'm just going to shred the leaves off into my breadcrumbs. You can be quite rustic about it. It's a very rustic recipe. You don't need to be too fussy. So just a little bit of thyme, 25 grams of parmesan. Add that, and you can just mix it with your hands. And then I'm just going to throw a little bit of olive oil into that. Again, there's no science really, it's just a splash. And then just mix that around. That's just going to give us a nice, slightly crispy topping. So my chicken stock is nicely to boil now. So I'm going to take it off the heat, turn the heat off, and then I'm going to take my gorgonzola. So you could use other cheeses, and just dot that around, just in the gaps. So as I say, I've got about 200 grams of cheese. You don't need it to be too precise. If that's too much for you, use a little bit less. And then on top of that, I'm just going to take some of the breadcrumb mix and just sprinkle that over. So it should look something like that. Then that's going to go into a 200 centigrade oven for about 15 minutes. So there we are, that's been in the oven for about 15 minutes. You can see that it's nicely brown on top, it's bubbling, the cabbage is lovely and tender. That's a meal in itself as far as I'm concerned. So the cabbage 49p, the cheese that I used, the gorgonzola, was £1.49. I'm going to have it with some bratwurst. They were £1.79 for 6. It's a beautiful meal. It's worth just adding a little bit of lemon zest just over at the end. You've got lots of creamy flavours in here, and it just a little bit of addition of acid just at the end will just lift the whole thing.